holding a property or a characteristics which tries to make us understand about time. So the times association is directly with Shiva. Uh, Apart from all the philosophies, the physical time association is also with Shiva here. So that is why Shiva Sahasranam Stotam says, Naktam Kalishcha Kalishcha. So in the initial Kal, the fourth of the five factors of limitation, which has been given in the Agama Shastra, occurs during the second stage, during the unity of the Shiva and Shakti. That is a cosmic process of creation. So first kind of a time which is associated with Shiva is the cosmic thing. And that got associated with Nataraja also, because that is a Tandava Roop, which is not like aggressiveness, but a kind of bliss is shown on his face. But he's trotting the apasmara, the ignorance there. And that is also an astronomical epilepsy, which is being recorded in that iconography. So that we will be discussing in the next part, how apasmar comes into picture and what is the association of apasmar with Agastya. So in this cosmic process of Shiva and Shakti, the Nataraja plays a grand role, a Tandav Nritya. The Nataraja plays here a role. After this cosmic process has already begun, then when the solar systems are formed and everything's are separated, we have our own time zones, we have our own time intervals, and that is also being monitored by Shiva. So how he's monitoring it, we will try to understand. Before that, Kal, which is the act of Shiva, this is one of the act which is performing. It is mentioned as Dvivido hi Kalaha Paramaha Aparameshcheti Shiva Maya Sambandharupam Parama iti. That means that there are two kinds of Kal. So one has to understand one Kal can be measured, but the other Kal cannot be measured, that which is floating in the galaxy. So that is very difficult to measure. So we see that how we relate to time from in different units. So one unit is the precession of equinoxes. The other unit is the wobbling of Earth, which takes 41,000 years. So here in this philosophy, it is trying to say that Kal is of two types. One can be measured and one cannot be measured, which is unseen, which is sambandha with Maya. So a kind of illusion is created, and that we are not able to understand. And our sages were very particular about this. They were trying to measure the time through the nakshatra systems, and we find all these important notifications or important notes in Brahmanas also. Like it is happening, the Samvatsar is happening in sometimes in Uttara Falguni, sometimes in Magha. So these are the fragments of memory which are already present in many of the scriptures, like Meshadi, when the raashis began, that time these times were recorded. There is a very interesting dialogue in Sutta Samhita. In Sutta Samhita, the dialogue is like, I think, which is mentioned as the two types of Kal, which has been explained by Vidyadhara, I think. And there, the dialogue is happening between the Shweta, King Shweta, Suta, Kala, and Shiva. So the Kal is being killed by Shiva himself. So you can see the iconography there. Shiva is killing the Kal with the trident. But the next moment, Shweta, the king Shweta says that, "Oh Shiva, you are yourself Kal." So you cannot kill the Kal for forever. So you have to resuscitate him. You have to resurrect him again, because it is you only. So Shiva, here we get an example where one will try to understand that every time, due to the precession of equinoxes, we have a complete one cycle. And after that one cycle, again another cycle begins. So whether we have this kind of a memory of a continuous process of precession of equinoxes, which has gone through a few of the cycles, do we have such kind of a memory? And this dialogue definitely suggests us that this memory is there, because once we see that Shiva kills Daksha also, and Daksha Prajapati is also associated with Orion, which was that Prajapati which was after Rohini, and that another memory is attached to that. So it's a kind of a cyclic process of precession of equinoxes, which is something is beginning from Shiva only. So what is this Shiva in the sky? So we will try to understand what is this Shiva in the sky. So we get an evidence in from Malabar navigators that this Mrigashesha Nakshatra is known as Shiva's Nakshatra. So in Taittiriya Brahmana and Vajasani Samhita, it is given that it is Shiva's the most liked nakshatra. Shivam Nakshatram Priyamasya Dhama. So it resides there. The Shiva is here itself. Shiva is also known as Shankara. That means which comes from the root Sham, which brings bliss, which brings happiness. So he is here, who is bringing some kind of a happiness. So you can see in this constellation chart how the three belt stars are here. And this is the sky condition. The Akash Ganga is nothing but we have taken the earthly Ganga as Akash Ganga there. And we remember it as Akash Ganga now. It appears to me that in previous times we used to call this as Saraswati, because I found in Brahmanas that Samvatsar was happening in Saraswati also. Something very interesting related to Saraswati. But in later times it became Akash Ganga. And we can see that there is a dog star here. We can see Apasmara here at the foot. At one of the feet is trodding the Apasmara. And we see that one of the hand is stretched and is trying to capture Rohini. So it's like capturing Rohini there. And this is the whole constellation, which is called the Kutu constellation, which is a Gangadhara Shiva. So he is holding the Ganga here. So this sky conditions brought up many legends in different Puranas also in later times. But actually it is one of the sky conditions. So this Kutu constellation, when was observed by the sages, they made Shiva embodied there. And that is why they say Drishyam Sharira Drishyam Shariram. So these kind of philosophies also evolved from the nakshatras. So we see that there are many karanas. There are 108 karanas in the Natya. And you can see these two karanas are very much similar to what the Kutu constellation is trying to tell us here. So from the Natya, we understand that some kind of an information in the sky Shiva is keeping, and that is completely associated with Mrigashesha Nakshatra and Ardra Nakshatra. So Thiruvadirai is Ardra Nakshatra here, and the three-bell star and the head of the, this is Mrigashesha. These three stars are called Ikshu Trikanda or Trayambaka. many names are given to these three stars. Apart from that, you can see there are four more stars, which is making a kind of damru kind of a shape. These stars, in which one I already told you that that Tiruvadirai, that is Ardra Nakshatra. The other two stars are Neela and Lohita that I have identified. And this way, the three belt star Ikshutrikanda, Keshana, Traya Keshana, which has come in Rig Veda. I have identified it with Traya Keshana. In this way, we find many names given to Mrigashirsha Nakshatra, Triambaka also. Now, let us understand the Orion in different cultures. Why this is so important? Why these three belt stars, when you go out of your house and in the nighttime, when you see the sky during spring times, ending of this, beginning of the winters and ending of the spring, you will be easily visualizing the Orion in the sky, in the southeast side. So even if you come today out of your premises and you see in the sky, you will be easily visualizing this star, because these three stars are very distinct and you can very easily locate, because such three stars are not visible in any part of the sky apart from Mrigashirsha Nakshatra. So this becomes very interesting, very important, and that is why I think Margashirsha month is also very important. Now, in different cultures, we can join all the stars in a very different fashion. If you want to see that the Chinese are making quite a densely populated star chart, but still you can visualize this Orion, which is very much like universal kind of a thing. So when you closely watch Japanese stars, there also you can see it is almost very much similar. If you go to Hawaiian star chart, you will see that it is again, name is different, the cat's cradle, Orion, but the whole situation of connecting them is very similar, because it is so easy to locate. Even if you try to go out, and even if you have not seen these star charts, you can very much easily say, अरे ये डमरू जैसा कुछ shape बना हुआ वहाँ पे दिख रहा है करके. So this is very unique feature which was captured by all civilization in a very same fashion. So it has nothing different. These four stars with the three belt stars are always there in a very similar fashion in all the different civilizations of the earth. So something is very unique about this three star. You cannot ignore. It's so eye-catchy. So when you go outside, you can just cannot ignore this star. So initially, this when you join this skeleton, you can find that it appears like a hunter who is having a bow in the hand and just pulling out the arrow from backside. So this appears in this fashion in the sky. So when you go out, you can always see and you can always connect with this star. And why this star became so important? Because since it was distinctly easily visualized, so the early humans, 2 lakh, 3 lakhs years ago, when they started understanding the whole sky and when they started to record the timekeeping, so they try to understand this, why this is not seen in some part of the earth and why this is not seen in this part of the season. So they were just chasing these three stars. And by chasing these three stars, they must have found the whole nakshatra system and then Rashi system, by which they were able to keep the yearly calculations from a very early times. So even today, when you go in rural areas, people just look at the sky and then they can easily judge what time is happening, or what kind of a season it is, because they are so connected with the environment. They're so connected with the sky. We have lost that touch. We don't go outside and see the sky much. But that is the benefit of the sky gazers, who can always tell you that what kind of time it is happening. And this was used in the navigation also. It was used in um, different kind of traveling purposes and everything. So this became a very discrete star. This also didn't change for 2 to 3 lakhs years of time. This has remained very similar. Instead, other stars have gone too far or away from the ecliptic and have changed the shapes also. So we have lost many of the discrete stars. We don't find that. Only we now know the longitudes and some of the Yogataras, which are very differently placed. So those are not exactly 13 degree 20 minutes apart. So this is something one should understand, that this star had been very much similar in its figure for and had been very prominent for from much of the antiquity. Now, as I said, that this is the hunter star, Mrigashirsha. Mrigashirsha come from the root Mriga, which means chaser. So either it is being chased, either it is chasing. That is why the whole nakshatra got this name, Mriga. So in Rig Veda also you find this word very often. We don't know if it is being used for this constellation or not, but definitely the word got got its appearance in Rig Veda. That means this word is very ancient. To me, Rig Veda appears to be very, very old, and everyone says it is Apaurushaya. But there is a debate by me that even though it is Apaurushaya, the first conceivement of the idea of the mantras, the first drishtas who were given these mantras must be the Homo sapiens. So I deliberately say the Homo sapiens. So if the Mriga word has come in Rig Veda, it was the initial formation of the words which were going on in Rig Veda with very less and very limited metaphors. So Mriga was used for beast also, Mriga was used for the deer also, and many of the animals were corroborated with this single word. So now when we see it here, Mrigashirsha, the belt star, the 3 belt stars, the waist of Mriga, which is in Asura Bhaga actually. There is a 2 portion, that is the celestial equator, and above that we have northern hemisphere of the celestial equator and the southern hemisphere of the celestial equator. So the southern celestial globe is known as Asura Bhaga. So this is not exactly on the ecliptic, but exactly on the ecliptic comes the Mrigashirsha, the head of the Mriga. So here Mriga is nothing but a hunter. It itself is a beast. It itself is killing something. So that is why the name Mriga, Mrigashirsha, then Mriga Vyadha for the series, and all the other stars around it is associated with this, because we can easily chase through these 3 belt stars, other stars also. So you can see the Pinaka here. So that is why Shiva is called Pinakadhri. He is Nil Lohit also. So there is a blue star here and there is a red star Ardra here, which is Rudrasya Bahu. It is also known as Rudrasya Bahu. And that is why it is called Lohitanga, Lohita also. So we understood various names here. Ikshutrikanda, Trishiras, Trayambaka, Keshana, Triyakeshana. These are all names of Mrigashirsha. Triyakeshana has come in Rig Veda. So I could associate it with this. Later on in Puranic section, we find Tripura and Tripurantakari. So we find this as a Tripura also. And why he's killing again Tripura? It is again a cyclic process. So it appears to me that once this name also came, and now we are getting confused with so many names together, but it might have been a cyclic process. In one process, it was Daksha Prajapati, then Shiva comes and he takes over, and then the other names also came in. So it appears to me that there must have been more than 2 or 3 cycles that had been recorded in our ancient Indic texts, different texts. So this is how Daksha is being remembered. So one arrow is going through the 3 belt star, and Daksha is being killed. Then he's being replaced with the goat head. And this way we remember Daksha. And who is killing the Daksha? The Daksha is being killed by the Sirius star. So this is how Nataraja is superimposed. I have superimposed Nataraja on this Orion nakshatra. You can see the lepus, which is the Western star chart name, but I will show you how it is related to Indian star chart also. And this is the Greek hunter who has also lifted one of his legs, very similar to Nataraja. And one leg is trotting down a hare. And hare means lepus in Latin. And we will see how this is connected with our apasmara. So our apasmara is known as Muyalaka. So in Tamil, Muyala means hare. And you can see that he is holding a snake with Anchuli Mudra. So he's kind of giving us a hint about Agastya here. And lepus hair of the Western constellation can easily be understood that this was an Indian constellation itself. So this is embodied in the Nataraja's whole iconography. Even apasmar is there, which is known as hair itself, which has come from the word Muyalaka. So something very interesting, we will go back to this. We see that all other major stars like Rohini, then Pleiades, Kritikas. So this Agni, which is in the hand of Nataraja, depicts Pleiades also, Kritika also. So this is a composite constellation which was used by Malabari navigators. When it used to rise, they used to follow the southeast direction. And further, when they wanted to go towards south, they used this Sirius star, and then they used the Canopus also. So Canopus is nothing but Agastya star. So we should understand that how this iconography has worked philosophically also and physically also, how the whole Nataraja concept became so dominating in the southern India, because mostly it was used in navigation, and there they were using the stars for navigation in a particular span of time in the year. Now, let's see how this whole concept gets superimposed on these nakshatra, Ardra, basically, and the Mrigashesh, which are very nearby. So we see that in Shiv Sahasranam Stotam only, it says Rudranam api yo Rudraha, Prabha Prabhavatam api. So the whole Prabha Mandala also comes in Shiv Sahasranam Stotam. So he is the initiator, Prabhavatam api. So some way or the other, we see that Shiva is connected with Kal, Naktam Kalishcha Kalishcha. It is itself in Shiv Sahasranam Stotam, which is in Mahabharata. And Ardra Nakshatra's deity is Rudra. So now one can understand why Ardra, Mrigashirsha, these nakshatras are very lovable to Shiva, because they are all connected with him. Rudra is connected with Ardra, and Mrigashirsha Nakshatra is Shiva itself, which is given in Taittiriya as well as Vajraseni Samhita. He is the nakshatra sadhaka. So it appears that he is the one who is chasing all the nakshatras. So supposingly we say that Daksha Prajapati. So as soon as we come across the word Prajapati, which is nothing but Samvatsar by Prajapati, we have come across this phrase in Brahmanas so many times. So somewhere or the other, Samvatsar used to begin with this nakshatra in some previous time, as it was happening in Mahabharata times also. But it is very interesting to note that the some beginning has to be there in all 27 or 28 nakshatra. So when we find Samvatsar by Rudra, when we find Samvatsar by Prajapati, when we find Samvatsar by Shunasira. So Shuna is nothing but, here you can see Sirius star is Shuna and Procyon. So these are the two heads of dog stars. So even the dog stars are the Indian homeland. They have come from our Indic text. They went to West in a very deep antiquity. If we want to understand their hunter constellation, if we want to understand their dog stars, we will have to look back into our Indic texts or the ethnographic memories to find out from where these have originated. So finally, I found that the hare, that is the Lepus constellation, also came from our Indic text. The hunter constellation, that is the Mriga, the chaser. Mrigayati means chaser. So even this word, the hunter, Orion the hunter has come from our own Indian Indic texts. Other than that, the Procyon and Sirius, the two heads of dog, the Sarameya, the Sarama, Sarameya, Shunasira, Shunasirau, these all have come from Rig Veda. So, in fact, we in the Puranic section or in the Brahmanas also, it has come as Mriga Vyada. And Mriga Vyada means dog star only, dog only. So one has to understand that many things which are pertaining to a deep antiquity has come from our own scriptures, and have, when they went towards West, and they got embodied with their own culture, with a very similar kind of notations and with a very similar kind of stories, but into their culture in a different format. But the origin appears to me is the Indian homeland itself. So this is how we see Nataraja as a composite Kutu constellation, which was used by the Malabari navigators. And its association is there with Agastya. You can see that the Gajahasta Mudra is pointing towards Agastya. The foot is pointing towards the Sirius as well as Vela. So there is a Ilvala Sur story also is there with Agastya. So I will be covering those stories in the next session. Today, I just wanted you to get acquainted with one of the nakshatra, which is very distinct and discrete in nature. And one can very much associate exactly when you go out and see towards the sky, you can very well associate with that star and locate that star very easily because of this being very distinct three together. So this is how I will end up today. And this is the Orion. And Orion is a composite nakshatra where Ardra, Mrigashesha, Rohini, Kritika, Procyon, Sirius, Agastya, Vela, that is Ilvalasur. I have found this as Ilvalasur, and there is a unique connection between this also. So next time we will understand what is the dance of Nataraja with the help of Agastya and Ilvalasur also. And we will try to decode many other stories in the series about the drinking of ocean by Agastya. What is this has any relationship with Shiva, and why every Kal has to begin from Shiva, why Kali is mentioned with Ardra Nakshatra. So we'll go deeper and deeper into this, and interestingly will unfold in future. Thank you so much.
So there was one question from Krishna Raoji. So what books would you recommend for further reading? It's there in the chat.
Actually, I was reading all the original texts. So I was not reading exactly any others versions. So I was reading Taittiriya Brahmanas, Rigveda Bhashya, and I was trying to connect it with my own thoughts. In fact, it's very difficult to make you understand how these epiphanic moments happen and how I decode these puzzles. But to read and to understand the philosophy behind the story making. So if there is something there in the sky, so you need to make a story out of it so that it gets stored for you in the future. So I would recommend you to read the books in original, and uh, for something very interesting to understand astronomy, you can begin with Nileshji's book. That is very interesting to understand what kind of things were noted by our ancients, ancient sages, or the writers. So if you see Raghuvansham, or if you read Raghuvansham, there also Kalidas has mentioned very beautifully about Agastya. So even a poetic writer is knowing all the information about astronomy. So basic astronomy one should know if they really want to understand what kind of philosophical stories are storing these events in the form of these lores or stories, that Agastya Vindhya lore or something like that, which we will be covering in later also. So I would like to say one should read Amar Kosha, Halayud Kosha, Sanskrit text directly. I would recommend, not of many commentaries, but try to understand it with your own vision, uh, not by others' vision, in fact. So even if I'm reading Bhashya of Rigveda, I'm always reading Sayanachara also, and Yask's Nirukta also. I'm holding those books in my hand, and I'm trying to correlate everything in, in a different fashion to understand what is exactly hidden in that. Because many times you cannot decipher Rigvedic mantra or even the Brahmanas. Uh, but some of those stories you can find in Puranas. So they say that you begin from Purana, then you go to Brahmanas, then you go to Rigveda. You can you can read anything, whichever you like. So only the thing is that you should not lose the interest. What happens is when you get into these texts, it becomes very heavily difficult for us to understand, and then we lose the interest. That is not happening with the Westerners. The Western Academy academicians. They are very diligently after you say one word, and they will write the whole thesis on that. So that kind of interest should be there, and we should try to understand the whole process of like here I try to understand the iconography also, the star catalogs also of different civilizations, why this is so unique. Then I went into Voyager, and why this is being visualized in a very similar fashion in every civilization. So at least this memory was taken by the first migrator to all the parts of the world. And that is why this got a very distinct kind of connection that is very same. Yeah? So whatever suits you, whatever interests you, you should read. You should read that wholeheartedly, in fact, I would suggest.
Rupaji, what about the famous book from Lokmanya Tilak, The Orion? It's a very old book, I know, but...
Yeah, one can read that also. I have not read yet.
Yeah.
I have not read yet because that is completely a different kind of interpretation by Tilakji. So I wanted to have my own interpretations first, so that I don't get overwhelmed by his product. So I would like to read that book. I have not yet read that book. It's been kept in abeyance for a while. But
So
definitely
second
when I
question.
write book on August, I will be quoting few things from that book, and that time I will be reading that.
Oh, I see. Okay.
See.
So there is second question. How does the name Orion correlate to Hindu icons and symbolism? Like the name, the word Orion itself, how come there is no Sanskrit word for it? I think that's the question, I think.
Okay, how name of Orion correlate to any Hindu icon and symbolism? Orion word doesn't corroborate anything, and it doesn't correlate to Hindu icon, in fact. But the hunter, the tagline is there always, Orion the hunter. So in our context, it was Rudra the hunter. So Rudra was hunting first the Daksha that I showed you, that with the help of Ikshutrikanda. So that way, only the Mriga portion, if you take, that means chaser. So hunter is nothing but he is also chasing the wild beasts. So in that fashion, we can correlate the Hindu icon there in Orion. So the hunter, that tagline, the Orion is nothing but he is the hunter. It's the name given to him, Orion. Just like we have given the name with the characteristics, Mriga, Mriga Shirsha, Mriga Vyada. But the whole constellation is Mriga. Why? Because it is chasing all the other stars also in the vicinity. So when you see other stars, you can easily locate with the help of these three belt stars. So we have the name with its character. We have the name with its property. But Orion is a simple name. But with that, since it is a hunter constellation, it is called hunter constellation. So it was also chasing. So this is how we correlate that. And then, of course, Lepus. So Lepus is being known as Muyalaka here, which comes from Muyala, which means hair itself in Tamil. So this is uh, maybe the navigation people who went till Egypt, and it is very well known from the Malamni Pothi of Gujarat that most of the navigations were taken up by the Gujarati Kachi navigators and Malabari navigators. So the whole world was like, uh, with the help of these people, people were voyaging from a very deep antiquity. So it appears to me that many concept like hunter and lepers has gone through, and dog stars, of course, which nobody can deny. We have Shunasirao. So the dog star has definitely gone from us because that is mentioned in Rig Veda. And with the help of Saraswati, we are already going back to 1,72,000 at least, that back before present. So we can understand how old Rig Veda can be. So this is how I would say the hunter is the symbol actually here.
Right. So what about the 27 or 28 stars?
27 or 28 star, isn't it always 27 star? No, if you read my, I will share my blog link later. If you read my blogs, I have stated there that Rigveda remembers as 34 constellations, as 34 rips, which has been differently interpreted by many others as 27 nakshatras or 28 nakshatra with 5 sun, moon, and all those planets, which makes 34. It's not like that. We had 34 also, then we have 33 deities. If you remember, we know 33 Koti Devatas. So not Koti, that is type. So 33 deities are also mentioned. Then we have 32 number also. Then we have 30 also, Muhurta, 30 Muhurta. That means we had at one point of time 30 nakshatras also. And later we coincided with 28, and then the uh, expulsion of Abhijit, and we now have 27 nakshatra. So this was to ease the calculations, but definitely it was 35 also, 35 stomas in Brahmanas that come, and 35th is Prajapati, the Prajapati Daksha. So in Brahmana, you will come across 35 also. 17 stomas were revered in Yajna. So you will find that 35, 34, 33 deities we remember. So all these 27 nakshatras have their deities also. So all the nakshatras, like Mrigashirsha nakshatra's deity is Shashi. Shashi, Som, Indra, Indu, Chandra. All these names are given, and we can see that Shiva is Chandra Shekhara. He's holding moon, one of the color of moon on his matted hair. So these iconographies are keeping so many information. So that is how we had so many nakshatra system, and we have gradually came down to 27 nakshatra system. I think it must have been pre-Mahabharata only. We achieved that 27 nakshatra system. And 12 raashis also. I and Nilesh did uh, we wrote a paper for Oxford, ancient update of Surya Siddhanta. In that we mentioned there that raashis were already known during Ramayana times also. That was happening during Surya Siddhanta, Mayasur was given. So at that point of time, Abhijit was already away from the ecliptic, and it was not in the nakshatra system in Surya Siddhanta itself. So 12,000 BCE, there were no 28 constellation system. So can I go to the next question? Prasanna Murthy is asking, what attracted you to astronomy from architecture? Okay. Actually, my mother was much into studies of astrology, and that instigated me to into astrology and palmistry, and I was so much interested in this this art. And from that, definitely my physics was good, so the astronomy very easily came to me. And this astronomy is very much used in architecture, daylight factors, seasons, and some way both are connected. So it's not just building with the bricks and creating spaces. Architecture is about how you use maximum of daylight factors into your spaces. So what kind of a declination the sun will be, and what kind of shadows and sunlight can be played in architecture. So both are very much related. One should always be very keen. All those architects there should be keen about knowing the astronomy also. And in the Vastu Shastra, even you see that 32 of the blocks are made on the Vastu Purusha. That is nothing but the names of nakshatras only. So that they knew what kind of opening will be there and what nakshatra you will be seeing from that window or fenestration. You will be watching, and you can just guess that what time must be happening during that season, what star is rising, at which penetration it is reaching. Similarly, during the daytime, when the sun moves uh, from east to southeast and again towards west, so what kind of a declination during the summers, what kind of sun rays you can play during summers, what kind of sun rays you can play during winters. That is the whole thing. Astronomy is basic knowledge of astronomy is too much important for architecture students and in fact architects. So both are very much related, so it's very natural to get attracted towards that. One question is from Anand Guriaji. He says Kalidas was an astrologer, was he not? Yes, mostly I would not say that astrologer, but I think that Uttara Kalamrita is written by the same Kalidas who has written Raghuvansham. He knows the ayanas and the chinha, that is the impressions of Agastya, very well. So he has to be a very good astronomer, of course. Otherwise, this cannot be this cannot get deciphered by Kalidasa. So he takes into account so many things, and in his poetry also he takes into account the seasons and everything very beautiful. The same thing is done by Valmiki Jain Ramayana. The same thing has been done by Vyasaji in Mahabharata. Actually, astrology as a physics was very important, one of the angas, Vedanga, uh, uh, which was studied by each and every individual. So in Mahabharata, you will see that Bhim is a very good astronomer. He knows what is happening, what kind of time is happening. So everyone was very much into these studies, and they were much connected. Now we are reading E is equal to mc square unnecessarily, all those Einstein things in physics, and which is not going to give us any knowledge. In fact, these basic things of precision of equinoxes or axial precession or the ephelion and perihelion conditions of sun and earth, that will give you more idea about how you can keep your house intact with and in sync with the environment. Basically, that is what is required day-to-day basis, which has been separated. And I think this is deliberate separation due to faulty education system for last 60 to 80 years. We have been kept aloof from our scriptures, in fact, all our Indic texts because of that. Supposingly, we knew that, or maybe 100 years back, many people were normally knowing all these things, and now we are trying to again get back to our own roots and try to understand what scriptures are trying to say, all the lores, all the stories which are holding all these astronomy phenomena of those times, those epochs. We have now forgotten, we have now lost because of no touch. Not even our parents were, my parents were also not in touch with that. Only few of the things about Saptarishis and these things we got to know from them. And some ethnographic memories which came down to us from many generations came to us. But many things we lost because we were not reading Rig Veda, we were not reading Brahmanas or Vedanga Jyotisha also. So it's like we got disconnected. Would you like to comment on significance of Aditya Hridayam by Agastya? We will take up this Agastya and Valmiki's Ramayana in the next series, how this is connected with Nataraja Shiva. So everything has a connection. We will try to understand why this Nataraja is only revered in Chidambaram and Madurai on that belt only, and why not in the northern India? Northern India, we revere Shivalingas, but the southern India revere as Nataraja. So we will take up what significance Aditya Hridayam has in Valmiki Ramayana by Agastya. Would you like to comment on significance of? Okay, same question. Do you think Rudra Shiva appeared in our texts and stories just because of the constellation of the rishis, or the rishis visualized it this way because they had a deva called Rudra and they associated? Something very interesting about the lores again here. Much of the things are cosmic, even in Rig Veda. If you see that the chariots, all the chariots are moving on in the sky. There are 3-wheeled chariots. There are 7-wheeled chariots. Basically, the imaginations are there, and sometimes few things happen on Earth, and that event also gets braided as a lore in, but it gets reflected in the sky. Something like in Ramayana, you come across that Vishwamitra makes a replica of the northern celestial globe. All the stars of the northern celestial globe also got replicated in the southern hemisphere. And he placed Trishanku, the southern cross, in the southern hemisphere. So Trishanku himself was a king, but after his demise, he wanted to be always remembered, immortalized. So in some way or the other, some of the stories are already happening on Earth, and which is being reflected in the sky, just to note that the epoch should be there. That should be remembered by the future generation. So supposingly, if the word, as I began with Prasadji, we were discussing. So Agastya word itself means a pole star. So Nagachati iti Agah and stay, Sanghate. So these two roots came together and made a word Agastya. That means a pole star. So nobody was looking at that portion that it is known as pole star. So I went into Amar Kosha. Amar Kosha, there it says that Dhruva Ottana Padi Syad Agastya Kumbha Sambhava Matra Varuna Seva Lopamudra Sahadharmani. That means that Dhruva, the son of Uttanpada, he is Ottanpadi, Syat Agastya Kumbha Sambhava. Agastya and Kumbha Sambhava, these are also pole stars. Dhruv se shuru hota hai, to Dhruv, Ottanpadi, Syat, Agastya, Kumbha Sambhava, Mitra, Varuna. So there were 2 more stars which is known as pole stars, and we have completely lost this knowledge. So there is one Mitra, one Varuna, the North Pole Star and South Pole Star, and then Lopa Mudra Sahadharmani. That means in the southern hemisphere or in the northern hemisphere, there was one Lopamudra star also. And that was also a pole star. So we had a bunch of pole stars, but we now don't remember. And in any other Brahmanas also, we don't get such clue that these were pole stars and remembered by some kings or someone somewhere in any of the texts. Also, I would like to quote that there are lacks of scriptures still not deciphered, still not being translated even. So we are just with the handful of scriptures trying to decode these. So supposingly those other scriptures are, Tamrapatras are being deciphered or being translated for us. So we can do more studies in these field. Like in Taittiriya Brahmana, you come across Indra and Kala Kanjas, and its association is with Agastya. The same story is being repeated in Mahabharata as Kalakeyas. So Agastya and Kalakeyas are there. So the Kala Kanjas, the word, how it gets transformed in Kalakeyas. Are these two of separate cycle of time, or are these two the same same phenomena, it's very difficult to understand until we have some third or fourth scriptural references. So we are completely now held upon only with few of the scriptures, and we are trying to understand these. And only I feel if I can do some justice with the word Agastya, and I can decode the whole thing, the whole lifetime will, it appears one more decade will go, and I will have to try my level best. So in one life, one can do only one thing, it appears to me. It's very difficult. I would suggest, I would encourage others to read as many scriptures, and if they can, like translate and do some dharma for this sake, it will be very, very helpful for many future researchers. Excellent interpretation.
So there is one. Is there a connection of Procyon and Nataraj? Did the Greeks know Nataraj? That's the question. From Eulenia Munoz.
Okay. Greeks didn't know Nataraja, but Greeks definitely knew this constellation. Greeks knew that this is a hunter constellation. Nataraja comes in as an iconography. It comes much later during Sangama times, it appears. But it was known to Tamil people, and they were the great navigators themselves. So the Pandyans and the Cholas, they are mentioned in Ramayana also. Pandyans are mentioned in Ramayana also, Mahabharata also. So they were already Maharathis, as well as they were the great navigators. And this is that age when we were, I think, exporting our few materials far till Egypt. So Alexandria and then Greeks, they are all very nearby. So some way or the other, the hunter word went to them, and in their culture, they formulated in a different way, but they remembered it as hunter. They remember the hair constellation, Muyalaka, so they named it Lepus in their language. In some way or the other, the dog stars also went there, and from Rigveda it went there. So they must there must have been some kind of cultural exchanges, of course, and from very deep antiquity, because as we see that all the four cities are being mentioned by Aryabhati on the equator. So one can visualize that how much we were into traveling or navigations. So cultural exchange was always there. With that cultural exchange, this knowledge exchange was there, and they were gathering on what we were doing. They were using our people for navigations. Till Vasco da Gama, they were using it. So you can imagine in those times what they were doing. They must have been doing. You mentioned that Orion has been visible since antiquity, but some stars constellation moved away. Which star constellations moved away or not visible now? Is this due to precision? Due to precision of equinoxes, definitely many things change. The right ascension and declination change of each star. But due to the proper motion also, many stars are going quite away. So one star is coming towards ecliptic, the other stars must be going away from the ecliptic towards the equator, celestial equator, or towards the pole point. So I will give you one example of Nishtya. This name is given to Swati Nakshatra. During 56,000 BCE, around that time, Swati was a pole star. And I'm speculating, and even Nilesh said that possibly was it Lopamudra. So she was a pole star, Swati, and she came towards ecliptic, and she's still very away. Now, Nishtya word means the one which behaves very abruptly. So imagine in Sanskrit, in Nyaya also, what I'm studying from with the help of V.N. Jha sir, every word has a property in Sanskrit. So it doesn't, something like gunatva. It has some kind of a guna by which it will be named. So Swati Nakshatra is being named Nishtya. That means she's behaving very differently. Why she's behaving so differently? Because she already was a pole star. She is now coming towards ecliptic. Likewise, many of the stars must have gone away, and now Sri Aryan Iyengar has listed 5 to 6 discrete stars which have not moved much. In this, Mrigashish also comes. Sorry. So that is how I will conclude that we don't know which star was which one. Pushya Nakshatra, today we know the Yogataras, and those Yogataras have been recorded in Surya Siddhanta itself. So all the Yogataras are there, and that has been identified by the Western academicians as well as the Indian academics. They have noted them, and properly they have listed out which stars are which one. But some of the stars are very much away from ecliptic, some are very near ecliptic. But this way, it's very difficult now to understand which has gone too far. So one has been noted as Nishtya because she was coming from pole star towards, like Abhijit went away from ecliptic. Nishtya, that Swati, came from pole star, from being a pole star to ecliptic. Likewise. This is very interesting. Each nakshatra has representative tree. What significance they had? I will take one example. Here, one tree is associated with Ardra. So, like Kali Bhog is given to Nataraja, and Ardra's deity is Rudra. Adra's tree is Kali Vibhitaka. Vibhitaka fruit comes from this Kali Vriksha. Bahedeka Vriksha is known as Kali Vriksha. So again, there is a Kali word hidden, very similar to Shiva Sahasranam Strotam, Naktam Kalishcha Kalashcha. Is a Shiva, and Shiva is one of the Rudras also, means he's known as Rudra also. So Rudra is hunter also, he is the chaser also. So some way or the other, these words were deliberately, like Kali Vibhitaka, the seeds were used, the fruit seeds were used for the game of Chaucer. In the Chaucer it was used. So it appears to me that and this was a deliberate attempt to name it like that. The Ashwatha is used for Pushya. Just opposite of Pushya, Punarvasu, Ardra, Mrigashirsha, you come to Moola Nakshatra. So the Moola Nakshatra means the root. And these are the branches. But Krishna says that it is upside down. So the root is Mrigashirsha, but the branch should be in the Moola Nakshatra. So the philosophical background here, it is like Moola Nakshatra means that from where the whole of the universe came out. And if you see the Yogatara of Moola Nakshatra, it is in the Sagittarius belt, which is the main belt from where the Orion belt also comes out, and other belts also come out. So in cosmos, you will see that during the creation, the Orion belts comes out. Now, very interestingly, this Orion belt is holding our solar system. So how these sages knew that this was the main thing, main axis, where the whole nakshatra system will be lying, but our solar system is on Orion, and that is why anything has to begin from Orion. So that is why the Kali also means number one. So it is the starting point, and again it is the ending point. So all the nakshatras are starting Prajapati. That is why it was Prajapati first, and it was chasing Rohini. So there is a legend about Prajapati chasing Rohini, Brahma chasing Rohini. So likewise, so many of the stories got attached, and so many astronomical phenomena were remembered in this fashion. So Prajapati is nothing but a Prajapati by Samvatsar, and Prajapati was one of the nakshatra which was Mrigashirsha itself in very initial times. After that, it got a name of Mrigashirsha. I hope Prasanna Murthy ji, is it okay? Like, are you convinced? We can always discuss later also.
Yeah. So one last question, Rupaji. The next one from Anand Gureji. That would be the last question.
Anand Gureji. Yeah, Jay. This is very interesting. Would Uttanpad mean the star that would see at the top of lifted leg as in Bharatanatyam? Yes, definitely. Uttanpad, if you go to the Mahabharata and read this story, where Uttanapad says Uttama to sit on one of his lap, and he calls Dhruva to sit on the other. It appears to me that these two legs are representing the two pole star conditions during Tuban time, and definitely it was happening that time also. So there were two pole stars, and one is the Uttam, which is the southern pole star, and the other one was Dhruva, which is Thuban, which is known as Thuban, and R.N. Iyengar ji has identified it as a Thuban. So Dhruva, why name Dhruva? Because in the NCP circle, where all the different pole stars of different epochs are present, some are little away from the pole point. Like Vega is very much away from the pole point, 4 degrees away from the pole point. But Thuban is exactly on the pole point. So that is why its name is Dhruva. Because Dhruvam Sarvam, if you remember the Valmiki Ramayana's shloka, where it says Brahma Rashi Vishuddhascha Shuddhascha Paramarshaya Archishmanta Sarvam Sarve Dhruvam Pradakshinam. So it is saying that all, even Brahma Rashi and Saptarashis, all are revolving around the Dhruva point, Dhruvam. And this word is given to one of the son of Uttanapad, Dhruva. Why? Because this is the only, and after that Polaris, which is today's time we have the pole star in today's time. These two stars are the only stars which are almost on the pole point. But Polaris is also away by fraction of degree. I think 1/5 part of the degree it is away from the pole point, and that is why it appears to me that it was not given the name Dhruva, but only Thuban is given the name Dhruva, which was happening during 2900 BC. So that was exactly a pole point. The other pole stars are a little bit away from pole points, but they are designated pole stars. Why? Because of the 8 directions. We revere the 8 directions, and all have their own angles, their own degrees. So in that portion, it will be known as north. In that portion, that will be known as north, northwest, north, northeast. So all these 8 directions are being always remembered by us. And in any puja or in any reverence, we always revere these 8 directions also. I think you must be remembering the 8 boxes, and बीच में मध्यमा होता है. So Indra, Vayu, Yama, in that fashion, the whole 8 dikpals are there. And these dikpals are nothing but defining the directions. So likewise, we had north, and in that north, It is not exactly North Pole point, but it was little away, but it was a North Pole star. So definitely, it's very good question, Anandji. It's very enlightening here.
That's great, Rupaji. I think we are 90 minutes in the talk. The presentation was fabulous, and your answers to the questions were very, very detailed. And your knowledge is, of course, astounding. We'll love to have you back in a series of these topics, because it looks like, astronomy, astrology, and all this iconography, we don't want to lose it, obviously, and your knowledge has to be documented on YouTube or on the web. Thank you so much for presenting to us today, and all the participants, and for joining today. Hopefully, we'll meet again soon.
Ji, sure, definitely.